Chris, what do you think? And are any of these kind of issues we're talking about here? Do you see any of this in Australia? Kind of give us your perspective.
Yeah, so I think I need to prefix this a little bit. So DoorDash likes to run a lot of A/B testing on different ways to work things, and right now Australia's kind of being treated like guinea pigs a little bit before they roll stuff out to America. So a perfect example would be I see a lot of stuff around, say, your scheduling. It's hard to get schedules, and there's too many new drivers coming in, and we can't get schedules. Australia's currently got an open schedule. Anyone can log in at any point to any zone. There's no restrictions. So we're seeing the opposite end now, where it's not about getting in, as everyone can log in, and the market's completely saturated and wiped out. So we're seeing earnings impacted down that way. So we're trying to find that kind of balance, I guess. If I log into DoorDash for a day, is there going to be 50 drivers on in that little dinner or lunch rush I'm doing, or is there going to be 10? And we got no indication. So it's just too unstable at this point to kind of predict your earnings across a shift. And I think for a lot of people who kind of rely on these earnings coming through and aren't doing it just as a side hustle, when you can't predict your income for the week and you don't know if you're going to pay your bills, can't pay your bills, what have you, it puts a lot of stress on drivers as they're coming in. We're seeing the recruitment drive on Australia right now as well. I think best way to put it would be Australia's a new market. So we're still opening up DoorDash in new towns and new cities all around Australia. So while you guys have been running for many, many years now, DoorDash only kicked off in 2019 over here. So we're still getting, I guess, market share, people understanding what DoorDash is. If you put 100 Australians into a room and say, name 3 delivery companies, they'll say Uber Eats, that one with the Snoop Dogg ads. Yeah, they'll go, I don't know, maybe Domino's Pizza. Most Australians don't know what DoorDash is. So we're still trying to get people to understand that. For drivers, we want more people to use DoorDash. But if they just don't know about us, it's difficult.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And how long have you been in the gig economy, Chris?
Yeah, I kicked off. I found out about DoorDash from a friend at a barbecue. I was having a few beers, and he just finished his very first shift himself, and that was in 2021 November. So probably 18 months, something around that now. And it was very strange to us because we thought, okay, we pay $5 for a delivery. So I guess the drivers get paid that, or we assumed that they're all on full-time wages or part-time or casualized wages over here. Gig economy, being paid per contract, very, very foreign concept in Australia. So it throws a lot of people off when they sign up. And they're like, how come I'm not getting paid $28 per hour? How come I'm getting paid $35 per hour? Right. So it's a radical mind shift for the average Australian worker. But those who can adapt to it and treat it like a hustle, they really get amongst it and they go for it.
Yeah. And I think tipping culture is different in Australia too, I would imagine. Can you touch on that just quickly a little bit before? I want to get your perspective on that a little bit and share it with the audience that isn't aware before I go to the other guys.
Yeah, this will blow you Americans' minds. You physically cannot tip in the customer app for DoorDash. You cannot tip as a customer. We have to rely off no tips.
So everything. So when you see an offer, it's all base pay.
All base pay. Nothing varies. There's no maybe higher or anything like that. It is just a base pay offer that comes through.
What's the average? What's the average order you see on your phone?
It's starting to race to the bottom a little bit. It used to be pretty consistent. I ran a couple of hundred orders through. It used to be $4 on a base plus $1 per kilometer, and that was pretty static, maybe 50-cent variance across it. But over time, they've started to drop it down. I think it was November last year. They've dropped it by, I think, 73 cents on the base pay, and now they're starting to test it a little bit lower again to see if drivers will take it. The thing is,
that's a significant drop. If you were at $4 and let's say you're at $3.25, that's a good percentage of a chunk.
Well, yeah, our floor was $6.23. That was the lowest we could get offer before November, and then they dropped it down. Now $5.50 is the lowest offer. And we're starting to see them test with add to route orders dropping even further and further and further down now. I think the lowest I've seen is about $4.
And that's also the Australian dollar too. So there's a conversion difference there. He says dollar. There's the Australian dollar versus the U.S. dollar.
Yeah. So I got one more question for Chris, and then I got a statement, and I want to get with Parker here next. We're we're talking about striking. 1 in 3 gig workers or delivery drivers would say they would strike because they feel underpaid, right? Is striking something that is in your country? Is that normal? Is it something that you guys as a workforce use to be heard? What do you guys? How do you guys work that out in Australia?
It's a red hot topic right now. We've got the Transport Workers Union firing up. So currently they're in talks with Uber and DoorDash. They're working out memorandums of understanding, trying to get essentially unionized to gig work. And it is building a wall between workers right now. People are saying, fuck, I don't want to be an employee. No way am I going with the union. Others saying, you know what? I'm not getting paid enough, so I want to employee up. Let's go for it. So when it comes to striking, currently, there's your standard picket strikes and stuff that happen. And these are people that want to transition this across into a more employee type role. So there are strikes happening, but widespread that's not. The current one they're using is the McKell Institute report. It only came out in April, and 57% of Australian workers that responded to the survey are saying that they're earning below minimum wage. And that's concerning, but I take these reports with a grain of salt. I think there's 200,000 to 250,000 gig workers in Australia, and that's rideshare and food delivery. But 1,000 respondents came through, and they were all kind of directed by the Transport Workers Union to respond. So it's a very, very selection. There's a lot of selection bias has happened with these reports, and we see that across a lot of news articles as well when they're saying everyone's underpaid. Maybe only 5% of the most disgruntled people are responding to these surveys. So there is strike action, but there's not really strike action. And in all fairness, as contractors over here, strikes aren't going to work if we're contractors. It's the same as over there, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like there's definitely some similarities. So let me get it with Parker here. When you hear 1 in 3 drivers would strike for higher pay, what is that? What do you think about when you hear that?
I think it was probably 10 minutes ago or so, you said, man, if only we had data. And that's really the underlying thing for like any discussion, I think, on your channel, acceptance rate, diamond zones, anything you talk about, if only we had data. But similarly with this report, we have to rely on subjective information, testimony